first Chess Talk number 1. I'm joined by Jesse February, Kostya Kavutsky, and Mikhailo Alexinko. And we're just going to chat about chess and chess training. If you have a question, you can ask it. We'll try our best to answer it. And what I thought we'd do just to start is to talk about each of our coaching styles. In particular, like what would it look like if one of you out there wanted to take a lesson with us through CoChess? What would the experience be like? And for me, it's interesting because I'm sure that we all have slightly different takes on what chess training should be, what it should look like. And so in my own selfish way, I'm going to peruse and ask these questions and see what the differences between us are. And it would be really nice if I could put each coach's style into a sentence or two. I'm not sure I'm going to be successful at doing that, but that's my little goal for the day, if I could do that. And I told Kostya I'd put him on the spot first. So
yeah, I'm happy to go first. Maybe we can do a quick intro real quick, because I'm sure people don't know who we are. Maybe we'll just each speak for each other, because this is my first time meeting a couple of you guys.
Okay.
I know GM Jesse for many years, but I am Kostya Kavutsky. I was born in Kiev, Ukraine, raised in Los Angeles, California. Now I live in Northern California. I've been playing chess for maybe 23 years or so. I lose track. It's been a while. I made my IM title a couple of years ago. So I'd say I've had like not the fastest progression, but kind of slow, and I had to like grind it out. I felt like I started working on chess real seriously when I was like maybe 15 to 16. And then I started coaching around there as well, like teaching in schools and working with private students too. Well, let me throw it to Jesse February. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Jessie. I'm from South Africa. I'm 23. I'm getting old. I got my WIM title in 2016, and it was by winning an African zonal event, actually. So I was lucky enough to get my title at 19. I'm still aiming towards WGM, but I guess it takes a lot of hard work and winning like the Continental or something like that. Yeah, I started coaching in 2015 when I was 18. And I even started my own chess academy. And then CoChess came along, and now I'm completely invested in that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. And that's all for now, I think. I'm going to save the rest for later.
Yeah, all right. Sounds good.
Jesse?
Well, I am definitely the old man in this group. I have been playing, I guess, chess for almost 40 years. Yeah, I came from a small town, no chess, and late, like a lot of American kids, not a lot of access to chess culture. And although I got reasonably good as a kid, I wasn't really, I never had a coach or anything like that myself. I then studied in Europe, in Germany, and I think I got reasonably good there playing in the Bundesliga and reached IM. And then when I got back to the United States, things had kind of changed in the chess world here at that point. That was like, 2000, where Yasser Seirawan and his wife started the U.S. championships, and it was all of a sudden really cool and interesting to play in the U.S. championships. And that gave me the urge and desire to try to become a GM at a late date. So if I have any claim to fame, it's that through hard work and lack of skill, I became a GM very late, something like 36 or something like that, which is older than I think almost everyone here at this round table. So anyways, yeah, I'll talk more about my own story later, but for now, I'll let Mikhailo introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mikhailo Alexinko. That's Ukrainian. Michael is the English equivalent of my name, which would be easier for most of our viewers, I would say. I'm 33. I started playing almost 30 years ago. My parents told me I was 4 when I started playing it. I don't remember that, but the 4 was the starting age. And I've been Grandmaster since 2005. So when I was 18, I got my title. And so I was playing chess. I wasn't coaching. I was playing, and my successes as a player was twice winning the Ukrainian championship. In 2014, I won the rapid championship. In 2016, the classical, the main one. Even though I started seeded, I was seeded. I think we can use that word. I'm guessing it's from tennis, number 8, but I managed to win the tournament full point ahead of everyone. I'm really happy about that result. So those are my accomplishments as a player. And I started teaching somewhere between 2011, not earlier. I did some coaching, but that doesn't really count. It's from 2011, and I've been working with of course, with private students, as we all do, but I have also experienced. I was teaching the Dutch women chess team for 2 years, and last year I was coaching Egyptian national team. And recent, let's say 2-3 years, I've been helping Ukrainian team as well. Unlike in other sports, you can help everyone. You're not like coach of one national team and that's it. You can go there, you can help in that tournament. So that is my experience as coaching teams, and of course private lessons we all do.
It's really
Cool.
cool.
That was a good
To you, Jesse. Cry,
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's start in on it then. So, so I should first say, me and Kostya have been working with I am David Prus on a site called Chess Dojo. And so I've had some interaction with Kostya, but now this is my chance to really drill him down on what he thinks. Yeah, what would it be like to take a lesson from Kostya? My sense is it'd be very different from what it would be like to have lessons with me. So I'll let you turn it over to you, Kostya. Just give us a sense of like, what would the first couple lessons be like with you?
Sure. Well, as you guys know, it's different working with kids and adults. I work with both. I don't know if you guys work with a lot of adult players in addition to coaching kids. It's usually a little bit different with kids. You kind of want to keep it a little bit lighter and just try to figure out, are they excited about the game? What do they like about the game? Kind of try to build on that. I would say I usually specialize with like adult players, people who are like really serious about chess. It's like a hobby for them, but they take it seriously because they spend money on it. They go to tournaments, like they really want to get better. So for this player, for most players, what I'll usually start with is I'll just have them send me their games. I'll go through their games, just try to get an idea of where they're at. Depending on their level, what their strengths, weaknesses are, you get a sense of the type of player. There's a couple of archetypes. There's a player who's like solid, but not so comfortable tactically, not always comfortable attacking. There are other players who are like pretty good tactically, but if they don't know what to do, they start misplacing all their pieces. And you slowly get an impression of the type of player. Then during the lesson, I try to go through some of their games, get an idea of where they're at. I usually try to ask like how they're currently working on their chess and what they've done before. And I would say the main goal is to just try to figure out how they can work on chess going forward. I think for most players, like the biggest, I'm sure we'll get into it, but the biggest challenge is time. Most people just don't have enough time and they don't know how to use their time effectively. So they end up playing blitz, doing like very simple tactics, not really doing a lot of hard work. So you try to figure out how much time they have and what they can actually do and what they should be doing. You give them a little push and I send them on their way. All right, now it's up to you. Like you got to work. We come back a week, 2 weeks, what have you done? What games have you looked at? And go from there.
So if I understand it right, like you are trying to identify certain weaknesses that they have, and then you send them off to do work on their own.
Yeah, I feel like for me personally, when I felt like I got much better at chess, it's because like something clicked. Like I remember when I was 1800, I was the player who was like afraid of complications, always trying to keep things under control. And then when I realized that and tried to like actively like play more dynamically, like I immediately saw like an increase in strength. So I feel like it's those sticking points that you try to identify and get over.
Okay, that's interesting. And one thing I know from your chess history is you came up in the Southern California, where I think you were mostly, it was like you had the honor and the privilege to be taught by the Armenians, right? With Melik Shekhachian and Varuzhin a little bit.
That's right. I mostly worked with GM Varakobian for many years, but yeah, I met Katya, and I also worked with famous coach I am Armen Arbartumian.
Oh yeah, yeah. I knew the Armenian connection was deep. Yeah. Okay. Good.
So yeah, I felt like I had a very Armenian chess school upbringing.
And how would you say, if at all, that affects you kind of going forward, both as a player and as a coach?
I think that helped me kind of understand, let's say, the fundamentals of chess strategy or positional chess. Before I like really started working seriously with Akobian, like, you know, I would show him moves that I made, and he would just immediately like just be repulsed by the idea. Like, how could you play E3 when you already played G3? You know, like,
Oh my gosh.
how could you do this? And over time, those lessons kind of sunk in, and now I have that same repulsion when students make weaknesses.
Doesn't that take a knock at your confidence? A little.
No, for sure. But yeah, you try to like, I guess you try to grow, try to improve on it.
What I really liked what you said, is when you were 1800, you were just trying to keep things under control. And then you said you started playing dynamically. Was that when you decided you were more of a tactical player or positional player? Is that like the decision or the realization that you have to have in your chess to not play like positional chess when you're actually a tactical player? How does that actually work?
Well, no, I would say that I was a positional player. At least that came more naturally to me at the time. But if I wanted to improve, then I would have to kind of take those tactical opportunities too. Like I remember I had this one game in the King's Indian where I was playing white against the King's Indian, and I had a very critical decision. I can go E takes F4 and open the position, and my opponent's king gets checkmated. Or I can play E4, keep the position closed, and I have a safe advantage.
Yeah.
So of course I played E4, right? Just keeping the space. And then like, okay, the game was super messy. And then afterwards I was looking at it like, what was I worried about?
Yeah.
So it was that game, it was other games that like gave me the realization like, okay, I gotta be willing to go in for complications when I think it's justified. It took a lot of work, of course. One of the most valuable things actually for me was studying Shirov's book, Fire on Board. I thought that was incredibly influential. Like his games were mind-blowing to me and totally opened up like new side of chess. Then it also took some internal like prodding, like going into tournaments, I like have the belief like, okay, if I have some chances, some risks to take, I just go for them.
Okay, cool. But now, before I leave you, Costa, because I know this is my one chance to really get in there with you with this. Is there anything specifically Armenian about the chess that you were brought up with?
Well, I would describe the Armenian chess school as stemming from like Tigran Petrosian, the world champion. He's kind of their idol. Some of the principles of the school are that in general, like chess is kind of a logical game. You should play for the initiative, but without trying to make weaknesses. The control of key squares is extremely important, and giving up material to control key squares, key files, key diagonals is something that's typically justified. Of course, we know Petrosian had his like famous exchange sacks, but I think that goes into all kinds of positional sacrifices as well. Yeah, I think in general, it's like a very practical type of thing. It's like just trying to keep the advantage. If you're under pressure, try to give some material for your position. It's all about like keeping things, in my opinion, easy to play.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. I ask because I played so many games with Malik Kashian and Var, but mostly Malik, and it would be the thing about the exchange sacrifice that I think is interesting about the Armenian school is that it's an example of a kind of paradoxical chess that they like. They like the weird paradoxical positions, like Vaganian, the way that guy played, always searching for the weird, crazy, convoluted positions where, yeah, they could really take you out in terms of their understanding anyways, that was just my take. I was just always interested in how that would be reflected in somebody who grew up in that school. Whereas, yeah, I think you are much more. I would call you a classical player. You definitely like the stable, nice advantage, right? Yeah,
For sure.
I think that's
Uh-oh.
just part of your personality.
I think
We
we
briefly lost.
lost. Yeah.
I think he's back though. I think he's back.
I
He
think
is
I'm back. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move it over. We can come back to Kostya too. And we have two Jessies in the show. So sometimes I think I'm calling her Jessie, and then there's Jessie February, and all this. Anyways, we'll figure that out. Jessie, one thing, let's just start that I'm interested in is I've never been to South Africa, and it's hard for me to imagine what chess is like in South Africa. And I'm sure other people would be interested. So give us a lay of the land of like you coming up there and just what chess was like for you.
I mean, other than, riding our pet lion to the local chess club, it's just among many. No, don't worry. I'm just joking for don't worry. No, it's completely normal. I mean, when I was 8, I started playing chess at school, and I mean everyone in that chess club was older than me. So I felt a little intimidated in a way. But also I was kind of motivated because I was like, if I can beat a grade 6 as a grade 2, then maybe I'm as smart as a grade 6. Then I started playing tournaments and that kind of stuff. So I guess it's all the same where you're like playing tournaments, trying to improve your ELO and so on. It's just we didn't have as many tournaments. Maybe we had one tournament every second month or something like that. And the development of chess, of course, there were a lot of coaches trying to be involved in chess, like at schools on a personal level. But there weren't the tournaments, like you'd have to travel. And maybe the support wasn't there as well. And still, it's a struggle to improve because we're kind of at the southernmost part of Africa, so we can't just, fly to Europe and play a few-day tournament. That'll help us get better.
Right.
It's like a whole 10-hour flight.
And where in South Africa did you grow up?
I was born in Port Elizabeth. I still live in Port Elizabeth, so I haven't moved anywhere. I've always wanted to move to a bigger city like Cape Town or Johannesburg, but I really enjoy it here. It's peaceful. There's 1 million people in Port Elizabeth, and yeah, this is where I started my chess academy as well. It's where people know me. But doesn't mean I don't travel for chess around South Africa, at least. Yeah.
Now, are you the strongest player in Port Elizabeth, or are there other strong players over there?
In 2015, I played in the Invitational, where I came first, and I was then the strongest, both male and female, all ages. So that was a lot of fun to be able to boast that. And then in South Africa, I'm the South African women's champion.
Right. Okay, cool. And what would it be like if someone wanted to take some lessons from you? What would the first couple lessons look like?
Lesson number 1 would obviously be introducing them to my lion. His name is Fred. Yeah, I keep him out on the porch. That's obviously the first one. And lesson number 2, no, I'm kidding. So I would usually try to find some games on them. It depends also on the age. I mean, I have a 5-year-old student who cries after getting every answer wrong. So it's like trying to encourage them, trying to tell them, you know what, it's okay. We learn the most from the games that we lose, or we learn the most from the things we get wrong, and that kind of stuff, to older adults who obviously understand the game already and just want to progress or get better, or maybe even get a rating. Then it's evaluating their games or just analyzing their games. And also, I like to start with the opening principles, for instance, to see where they're at. Because a lot of like beginners think that like knowing a lot of openings is just so cool and it's going to make them stronger, when in actual fact, it's better to focus on one opening and to just get like the template of the opening like control the center, develop your pieces, get the king safe, and then the endgame basics. Because Dabrowski obviously says it's the most important part of the game. Yeah.
Okay, cool. One thing I forgot to ask Kostya that I'm going to ask you, and that's just because I know Kostya so well. Is Kostya is an IM and he's trying to become a GM. Very tough battle. I've been there. Very rough. Do you have personal chess goals at the moment that you're also working on?
Yes. So it was actually the tournament this year that I was preparing to play in Nigeria. It's the African individuals, and the champion gets awarded the WGM title, and that's basically my aim. In 2017, I missed my chance marginally because I came tied first, and by tie breaks I came third, and I messed up one game that just kind of turned the whole tournament around, and I was like, I'm quitting chess. This is it, trying to rage quit. But then coming back and realizing, I mean, what's all the work for? And but luckily I got to play in the Women's World Championship in Khanty-Mansiysk later that year as well, which is really, really cool. Yeah, I lost both games, came home very happy somehow after 2 days. I played against GM Katerina Lagno. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So yeah, winning that tournament is definitely the goal. I want to improve my rating. That's where I need to start, and actually work on my chess more. Yeah.
And have you played in the Olympiad, Jesse?
I have twice. 2016 in Baku, Azerbaijan, and 2018 Batumi. Yeah, and yourself?
How's that? Yeah. No, I have no chance. Oh my god, in the US? Oh my god.
Don't say that. But it's cool. You have multiple citizenship, right?
I don't think in Ukraine my chances would be great.
Oh right. Oh my gosh. It's tough. Yeah.
No, my only chance is if a very nice country like South Africa invites someone like me to come.
Okay. Sure. We can adopt you. I'm sure we can get some papers going. Yeah.
Me and Kostya have already started talking about moving to Barbados and all these other little islands.
That's so cool.
We're determined to play in the Olympiad. That's one of the life's better things. Yeah, for sure.
But aren't there like some Middle American countries, like much smaller countries, like you get Jamaica who play in the Olympiad, and like you said, Barbados, and I don't know about Haiti.
Loads of little countries we could go to live in.
Yeah, but some of those places are getting pretty competitive. It's not like we could just go anywhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think there are pretty big restrictions on changing the federation. You have to like prove that you have connections, not like that one place.
Yeah, connections are important. I really liked Michael, that you said you were working with
Michael, yes, please do Michael.
Michael, sorry. I'm probably going to botch your real name. Sorry for that. You said you were working with the Egyptian team. That is so cool. Yeah. I know Egypt and South Africa are pretty far apart, but I know a lot of the players quite well. So that's really cool that you're working with them.
Yeah, last year I was with them at African Games, and like, well, I'm not sure how big it is my success. Egypt is by far the strongest country, at least by rating and by number of GMs in Africa. So I'm not sure how much that is my work, but they won all, except maybe one medal we didn't win. Everything else was golden. And in 2016 and 18, I was on Olympia too, but not as a player. And I don't think it's possible in Ukraine. You have to be like around 2,700.
Oh my goodness.
I remember, now maybe when the top players lost the rating.
Yeah.
I remember like, let's say 10 years ago, 2,700 is not enough. There are like 5 people.
Oh my gosh. So, our top player is 2,400.
You know, I'm not even the best player of my building. So that's not a joke. That's not a lying joke.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Who lives in your building?
Oh my gosh.
Rauf Mamedov from Azerbaijan lives in my building. He's husband of Natalia Buksa, who is a member of national team. So she beat me in Blitz in our last two games, and Rauf Mamedov is stronger by all the categories. So I'm not. I was complaining that I'm not the best player of my part of the Lviv city. We have like dozens of GMs. Now I'm not even the best player of my building, and I'm like,
time to move to a different
I'm actually
building.
moving. Yeah, I'm moving next year because.
Oh my gosh.
I would love to know more about what it's like to work with the Olympiad team at some point. That sounds awesome.
Sure, but it's not my turn yet. So
yeah.
Well, Jesse, let me
means.
let me follow up with you a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, were there formative moments in your chess career when you were coming up, when you're learning the game, that influence how you teach now? Like personal moments in your own chess life that you then really try to push in your own teaching?
What I've realized is the coach can only take you that far. And that's why there are always coaches who are going to give you extra material to work like on your own time. You'll be obviously working when you're not having a session, because maybe you have 1 hour a week with a coach, and just having 1 hour a week where you're working on chess just isn't enough. So playing a lot of games online, for instance, but not only playing, like with every game, whether it be a super bullet game or the longest classical, you need to analyze those games as well. So homework and obviously analyzing games is so important, because when you go back to your games, you're obviously seeing the mistakes that you make, and there are so many features as well where maybe you're analyzing without an engine first and then going back to the engine to see maybe you've missed something tactical, or that'll also point out your weaknesses. Maybe you need to improve your tactics, or you need to go back and improve on your end game, or to see, where the problem area is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, all right, let's move it to Mikhailo. We can always come back to different questions. And if anybody out there has a question for any of us, you can write it in and we'll definitely try to take it on. So, Mikhailo, one thing, you're from Lviv, which I think is usually said in the West as Lvov. Is that right?
Lvov is a Russian pronunciation and Polish pronunciation, but Ukrainian pronunciation is Lviv with an I.
Oh my goodness.
Good. That's important to know, because I know, just when from the tournament books of old where there was the Informator or whatever, it was always Lvov, and now I know why, because it was
Soviet
the Russian
Union, yeah.
Soviet, that's right. Okay. And so tell us a little bit, about coming up in Lviv and the amazing chess tradition that exists there, and what was chess training for you like? And I guess would have been not quite a Soviet system, but a Ukrainian system when you were a young player.
That's a good question. I've been thinking about that because people keep talking about Soviet chess school, Russian chess school, and I don't feel like I'm part of that. I feel like basically all my chess journey is till this day actually is with my coach Vladimir Rubinstein from also from, and he raised more than 10 GMs. So we were starting as a group of kids, and he raised 10 GMs basically from children, and now he has another group growing up, and he already has new champions coming across. So he didn't really follow so actually somehow with that school is in my blood, but it was not taught to me. So I cannot explain this one. So I read in some articles, in some books, in the understanding of weak squares, don't do that, don't do this.
Yeah.
Somehow I understand it. But my coach's main goal was all our training sessions would look like this. We come to the same place, and then there were like 5-6 positions waiting for us. And that's it. You just have 5-6 positions. You have like 90 minutes or 2 hours, depending on the day. And you move from position to position. You write down the best move and variation to support your thoughts. And when you think you're ready, you give your piece of paper or a copybook to Grabinsky, and he would say, yes, and that one is wrong. and you tell me why it's wrong. And then you come back to the position and you sit there. So it was actually quite a motivator to get them right, because if you get one wrong, if you jump to conclusions or rush with the solution, you get one wrong, you already have two puzzles instead of one. You have to figure out where were you wrong, why were you wrong, and then you're back to square one. And but all those positions, they were from opening phase, middle game, end game. So he actually took basically all areas of chess. But the skill that I'm using till this day, and I have many games that I'm actually doing courses using my own games, where I'm able to find a sequence of only correct moves in the position. So some of those positions was, of course, tactics, but many of them were just positional ideas, find a maneuver, how do you convert an advantage in this endgame. But all of them had one thing in common: there was only one correct decision. Only one correct decision. So apparently I got this skill from those training. If you give me a position, it's a very good chance that I would find that one correct move quite successful. So it's a little bit different from Ukrainian Soviet chess school, but somehow I got the understanding anyway. So yeah.
I want to say, sorry. So GM Jesse and I, we're big fans of Rubinstein's book, Perfect Your Chess.
Yeah.
Which also follows this theme, like every problem has like an exact solution.
Yeah, there are some of my games in that book. Yeah.
No, I remember. Were you around when he was like working on it? Did he mention anything about the book?
Yeah, he checked those positions on us.
Nice.
So we gave him valuable feedback with variations in our thoughts, and then the book was published. And we're actually writing a book with him right now. Hopefully, it will be. Well, stay tuned, I would say.
Oh, so you were the test subjects.
Yes, we were like I don't know. Rats is not a good analogy. No.
Lab rats. Oh my goodness.
So yes, he tested those positions on us, and we actually provided some. He said, "Do you have an interesting position? Give it to me, and we'll check it." So yeah, it was an interesting experience.
One thing I want to make sure people out there understand is this book that we're talking about, Perfect Your Chess, it really is, at least to my mind, a different kind of book. There's loads of books out there with tactics and puzzles, and those are all great. Of course, there's all these tactics trainers that are online. Those are cool too. But what I find so satisfying about Perfect Your Chess is, like Mikhailo's saying, this is just something I'd like to emphasize. The positions aren't necessarily some kind of tactical solution. And you don't know. You don't know in advance what kind of solution it's going to be. It's just like in a real game.
No hints whatsoever.
No
just
hints.
Like in a real game. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you just have this position. And I think they're not, there's a very interesting selection process too that maybe Mikhailo could tell us more about, but to me, they were very aesthetically satisfying in that not only were they different kinds of solutions, but there was something like magical in each of those positions where I felt like, even if I got it kind of quickly, it was still like, oh, that's an interesting thing about chess that's being shown to me through this position, and I thought, yeah, it's really an interesting thing maybe to talk about, because, for example, I know Kostya loves solving problems. He's a problem meister. He didn't bring that up when he should have brought it up, because if you get taught by Kostya, he's going to make you do a lot of problems. These problems are a little different though, and maybe, I don't know if it's even possible to talk about, but maybe Mikhailo, you could, like, what sets those problems apart? And yeah, tell us more about that whole laboratory where those problems came from.
I'm not sure about the book. Is actually 10 years old, I think, or something.
More than,
and it's still
almost
pretty
20
good.
Years old. Yeah.
No, 10. Oh my God, it's not 10.
Yeah,
oh my God, it's
more
my
like
God.
20.
Okay, yes, that was a long time. I can tell you a little bit about the book that we are writing. It would be in a way similar to that one. The position would have only one correct solution, and it would have cover many areas of chess. But how we do the selection process, it's, as you say, exactly as you say. You look at the position, you see the solution, and you're like, yeah, I like it.
Right.
It's not like like you turn on Stockfish, it gives you like the line, and you're like, yeah, okay.
Right.
Nothing special. So yeah, it's like, but you have to have this inner feeling as a coach and as a player. Chess is art, science, and sport all together. So you have to have this part of art in a position. So only one solution, it's science. What's sport part about it? It's hard to say. It's just the challenge that you're facing. But the art part of those positions is like, there should be something special about it.
Well, in the sporting part about it, I think people who are interested in calculation are just going to try to tell you that calculation is the most important thing. And clearly that school of thought that you came up with clearly believes that that's the most important thing. And you're finding only move sequences is obviously a huge competitive advantage. But of course, it's different from an entirely different kind of school that might want to just talk about the positions, talk about weak squares or whatever it is we want to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's,
yeah, I agree.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Go ahead, I was gonna say it adds to like the sporting side of chess. Chess also, burns calories. So.
A lot of calories.
Yes.
Have you seen that article? I think it was on some sporting website, how many calories you can burn per game. Have you
people hate that article. They're so offended by the idea. But every chess player knows it. I remember when I came back from playing the Reykjavik Open, my girlfriend Maya said that she thought I wasn't eating, like I was malnourished.
Oh my gosh.
I was eating normally. I was just like walking to the tournament, playing a full game every day, analyzing, prepping. It takes a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And we're getting nervous during the game. It's eating us from inside, basically. If you're nervous for 5 hours every day, that should count for something.
Absolutely. Well, maybe it's time for us to ask GM Jesse what it's like.
Yes, a good point.
Because I think it's the most, I'm going to say, transcendent process to work with with Grandmaster Jesse.
I was wondering how I would describe my chess teaching, and now I know that I'm part of the transcendent school of chess coaching. Well, right. I mean, one reason I asked all of you where, your formative moments in coming up were and how that influences your coaching is because that was definitely the case with me. And I think that my intuition anyways is that when I talk to other people about coaching and they have there's very strong feelings that often you meet, whether it's online or whatever, about people thinking about this is the way to do coaching. And usually I think what those people are doing is they are recreating the moments that they felt were most formative to their own chess and then pushing it outward in terms of their coaching. So for example, I assume that if I took lessons from Mikhailo, he would, talk to me about analyzing certain positions and maybe in a certain amount of time. And then I bet if I got one of them wrong, well, then I'm going to have to come back and do it again. I mean, I'm just assuming there. We should have given more space to that, and maybe we'll come back to that with Mikhailo. But anyway, so for me, I was largely a self-taught player. I grew up in a country that didn't have a lot of chess culture, in a place with very few players. And I got some of that when I was in Europe playing, but mostly I had success, and it was also, let's say, spiritually interesting for me to try to improve by studying my own games. And you could call it the Botvinnik school or the Soviet school or whatever you want to call it. But I really feel that is the most important thing to do as a player. And in a sense, when you're studying your own Rubinstein's positions, right? They're like, well, what are you going to do here? And you need to figure it out. And then it's really interesting to think about why you didn't do certain things and what were the assumptions that went behind you going a certain way. Or even just very practical matters like, why did you take forever making a certain move or not take any time on a certain move? So one reason I also wanted to drill people on it is I really think that every chess player, whether they're GM or even somebody who's an avid player, they're experiencing something spiritual in the game. Doesn't happen all the time for them, but some spiritual. Like when I read Perfect Your Chess, I felt those many that experience outward, right? It's like I want you to analyze your own games and to try to get you to express your own thoughts in words in the same way that I'm trying to do when I'm doing it myself. I do want to give an important caveat here. I have, as a coach, mostly failed to get my students to analyze their own games. And it's really interesting. And I think I've been doing it long enough myself, analyzing my own games myself, to know why. And that is just, it's so hard. It is so hard to analyze your own games and to write it down in a notebook and then to go through all these variations. And then the computer's going to tell you were all wrong the whole way anyway, you know? And so it's going to be, there's so many other ways to do chess, whether it's blitz or puzzle rush. There's all these other things that are out there calling out your name to get your time. So that I think this way I have of teaching is really not for everyone. And it's difficult. And a lot of times what I find myself doing as a coach is just helping them go over their games, my students' games. It's like I'm helping them do a process that they find it difficult to do themselves. And another thing I just want to add is if someone's watching this and, you know, just wants to try it out for themselves, one of the things that you'll discover is you'll look at a game that you maybe spend a couple hours of your life on, and you'll go over it. And the first time you do it, you're only going to find like maybe a half a page of notes. I have this experience again and again with students. They'll come and they have like 3 or 4 points. And it's just a thing you got to get good at, because until you realize how rich the game is, you're not going to realize that there were actually maybe 15 pages of notes to be had in that game. Anyway, it's a very difficult process. Yeah, that's my short synopsis of what I've got going.
Yeah,
and it's not for everybody, right? So you have to be like really dedicated, and self-control must be extraordinary, because like one button and your stoppage telling you where you're wrong.
Absolutely, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Someone commented, my guess about Jesse's coaching: students should buy a lot of notebooks. So
yeah. The good news is that notebooks are pretty cheap.
What about pencils? Well, let's follow up on that. So let's say someone is dedicated, they're ready to do the work, and they don't want to analyze with the engine, but they're not that strong. So what's kind of like the basic process for going through the game? I think like most people would understand it as you try to find where you went wrong and what you should have played instead, and then maybe what logically follows after that, or how would you go about it?
Well, I should just say there's a subtext for Kostya digging me on this, because he's been at me for months now to do a video on how to analyze your own game. I promise I'm coming to it. It's a hard video for me
People
to do.
want to know.
but so first of all, I want to say, I don't think in terms of the process, it does not really matter how strong you are, in the sense that I don't feel like I'm that strong. There's loads of things I do not see. And what takes some time is learning how to talk about the position. So for example, when people come to me and we do lessons, one of the first things I try to do is just to get them to talk about what they see. What do they see in the positions? Very basic things. A lot of times, you know, people will give me very long answers about variations and yada yada, and I'm like, wait, let's just talk about like what more basic things do you see in the position? What are the good pieces and the bad pieces? And identifying things like that are the things that are going to help you find a plan in the position. Right? Those are the things that will compel you to be like, oh, this is how I need to think about the position. And then from there, I'll find the plan. It's not like because your mind, if you just look at a position, every person's mind is going to see 1,000 different plans and moves. But if you try to retreat from that a little bit and come back to the basics of the position, those basics usually will help you find a plan going forward. You know, they will point you in a direction. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that was where my mind went with it.
I think that's helpful. That's definitely useful.
Can I want to add something to. I didn't really answer the question. What would be a first lesson look like?
That's right. That's right.
So I was talking about myself, how I was good, how I was well raised as a player, etc. But what do I have to offer? And it depends who am I working with. Usually it's adults that have only a little time to invest to chess, and yet still they want to make progress. And totally different when I'm working with professionals, right? So it's like two different separate categories. On CoChess, my profile says 2000 ELO and above. So I prefer working with the stronger players. So I'm not sure if what I'm going to say now is necessarily to the most benefit to lower rated players. So you can maybe you have a better experience with children, for example. There should be different approach completely. But what I'm doing, for example, I have an adult who just loves chess and wants to become better or get a rating. Usually they don't have that many games in database. Of course, I check. So first of all, what I'm checking only the classical games, because people do the stupidest things in Blitz and even Rapids.
Right.
Just making any sense of that would be counterproductive. So usually my first lesson, we do not touch a single piece. So we just talk. I'm just asking, how many hours do you study chess per week? And people say like 10 hours or 2 hours. You know, that number is important, right? Because nobody's going to work for many, many hours if they are not professionals, right? They would want a lesson in a week or two, maybe twice a week at best, right? Most of the improvements, at least that's my experience, players make when studying on their own.
Right.
Unless they like have a dedicated coach, you know, like there's a child and the coach who works with a child. That's a separate story. I'm not going there. So I'm talking mostly about, well, we had lessons with Grabinski 3 times per week, 2 hours. That's it. And homework. And then we were doing something at home, right? And we got successful. So what I'm doing, I'm making sure that my students spend their time well. So you can do... And I make a strong emphasis on calculation because in my point of view, it just has more value, meaning that if you can play a fantastic positional game and then you blunder in one move, right? So, and all that hard work goes to waste if you blunder simple tactics. So from my point of view, just stop blundering, and then we can talk about deeper stuff, right? Maybe working in both directions is better, but if you blunder simple things, just talking about how to play against isolated pawn will be useful, but in practice, you know, it can be just lost with one move. So, and then I'm asking, like, what do you do to improve your calculation? And usually people say I'm playing Blitz and doing Puzzle Rush on chess.com. So I'm really of a bad opinion of Puzzle Rush. Maybe I really want to be wrong about that, so I'm ready to have a conversation. But I think Puzzle Rush is useful for Bullet, I guess. I'm not good at Bullet, so I don't know. And Blitz. That's it. It's harmful for classical chess, in my point of view.
Would you say that Puzzle Rush is more like pattern recognition?
Pattern recognition, speed of calculation, zero accuracy. No second is spent thinking for your opponent. Exactly what you need for a bullet game or a blitz game, right? But classical chess is more sophisticated than that. You cannot just jump to conclusions in like 1 second. In classical game, in Blitz, it doesn't matter. You lose one, you click the button and you play another one, right? You don't really care about that result that much. it's not the same as classical chess, right? They give titles in classical chess. I haven't heard about title in Blitz GM. There's no such thing, right? It's only
Not yet.
maybe rating. Maybe they would be going in that direction because every title is extra money for FIDE to, right? So, okay, that's of course a joke, but maybe they would come up with it. But so far, no titles are being awarded by Blitz or even Rapid. So I'm asking, like, how do you improve your calculation? And what I'm asking, what is your goal to become better at Blitz? Then this is what you do. If you want to get a title, well, you should do another thing. And so improving your calculation, I think calculation is two part. So it has accuracy and speed. Maybe I'm missing something, but these are two definitely part of calculation. You either want to be very precise and correct, or you want to be quick and jump to conclusions like this Puzzle Rush. I like to be precise, right? For classical chess, you need to, like, if you find a combination, you need to be certain. You don't have to act in 2 seconds. You have several minutes usually, right? So, but you have to train both, because if in time trouble, you have to calculate quickly, right? And it's different. Like, if you train the speed of calculation, it harms your accuracy, because you're like doing simple positions quickly. And if you want to become better at difficult stuff, you sit there with one position for 10 minutes and you try to figure it out. So that's what I'm usually discussing. And then we're talking, how exactly do you study chess? Like, how do you study a book? Do you have a book? Do you use apps? What exactly do you... So what I'm trying to do is make sure that my student is doing, at least not making mistakes in their study, because you can do a lot of work, but if you're doing it in the wrong direction, the benefit would be very little. And to prove that point, I'm always using this. I like to exaggerate stuff to prove a point. So, for example, you say, I did like 20 puzzles today. Is that good? It's good. I did 20, 30 puzzles today. I'm like, hold on a second. It matters what kind of puzzles have you done? How much time did you spend? How precise were you at that? So you can do, 1,000 puzzles, mate in one for children, for beginners, like mate in one. You can do 1,000, you can do 10,000. You will not become better. You would just do 10,000 of positions, spend lots of hours, and zero result would be. Or you can just pick up a grandmaster level position and sit there for 1 hour trying to figure it out, which is clearly beyond your capacity. And that time is, well, not wasted, but really not used in a valuable fashion. So I'm trying to help my students in that area. And of course, opening end games, all this stuff, but mostly first or second lessons, we're just talking, and I'm explaining why is this a better way to do, and so on.
So Mihailo,
my monologue is over.
No, that's great.
Let me follow up, because me and Kostya were joking, but not really joking. We were like, well, we're going to go take lessons from Mihailo, So let me just say, let's put a little bit of a concrete example. So one thing I should have mentioned, if you see in the background of Jessie February's room, she's got a board. And I assume what's happening is, when she clears off her streaming stuff, then she puts that board on there. And I've got the same thing. So I'm going to put my real board, and I'm studying with my real board, and, I'm just like everybody else. I don't have an unlimited amount of time. I've got kids and I'm doing other things. But let's say this, I do have a dream I should have mentioned. My dream is I'm going to turn 50 and it's going to be great. There's going to be like senior tournaments, and it's going to be this beautiful time. There's going to be the U.S. senior, there's the world senior, and I'm not going to be able to play on the Olympia, but the dream is the U.S. senior team. It'd be a huge deal. But for that, I do think, I have to first it's not just get better, but like I have to get back to where I was, like a lot of older people, I've fallen down and I feel not as strong as I used to be. Anyway, so I'm this introduction was all just to ask you, Mihailo, like, let's say I came to you, and what would it, and let's say I explicitly said I need to work on my calculation, which I have to. What would it look like if we did some lessons with the calculation?
That's a very good question. Actually, what I'm okay. I'll see where do I start with this one. I see calculation, ability to calculate variations, very critical, not only because seeing tactics. Very often you have to calculate stuff for positional benefits, or, you know, I do this, he can do this and this, and you have to like visualize those positions and try to evaluate them. So it's a skill that needs to be trained like a muscle, like a biceps,
Right.
you know, you have to do the workout. You cannot do it like once per week with a coach or once per 2 weeks and say I did some calculation. I feel like this is so. You can see chess from there's understanding of chess that doesn't go anywhere. Like if you learn what is a weak square and what to do, what not to do, it's like knowledge. This is not a skill anymore. You just once you learn it, you just know it. You can like maybe slightly improve it, but mostly you're done, you know. And it's not the same with calculation. And unfortunately, I have my own experience to prove that. Since I started teaching way more in recent years, my own rating dropped significantly, and I physically feel that I'm calculating much worse than I used to. I physically feel it. I used to do every day I was doing my own chess, I would start with 1 hour of calculation. Just the first hour, I just do the calculation. So what I'm trying to say here, it's a skill that must be trained on a regular basis. So I'm talking about high level. I'm not sure if that could be applied to lower levels. So please, I'm not an expert there. I feel like I am much better equipped to teaching titled players or somewhere around that. So I can suggest books and material. I can suggest how do you do tactics. I don't like online tactics, by the way. I'm not a big fan of doing. I do it occasionally if I'm really limited in time and I have like 15 minutes. Then I cannot take my chessboard, set up the position. It would be too time consuming. But I do my tactics on a chessboard. And the reason I always give to my students is this one. When you're doing it on your screen, the board, the pieces look different. It's not the same as a 3D board, unless you do it in 3D chess on all the platforms, which I think nobody's doing that, right? So the point is, I'm not sure how my brain is working, you know? Like when you're looking at a chessboard in ChessBase or any website, you can see a chessboard right here. For our brain, this is, and you need to become better at seeing tactics or calculate on actual 3D board. From our brain, this is a large board. The pieces are lying on a square, not standing up. They put horizontally on the square, and you're flying over the board. And our brain has to like, hold on a second. What about like, how do I, and it has to do all these iterations to come back to the position in front of them in a real game. So I'm saying that all these iterations are, well, if you have time, put the position on a chessboard. Write down your solution. Write down your solution.
And yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
That's what I'm suggesting. Yeah.
So this is partly a selfish question, but I have a feeling other people out there watching would want to ask the same one. So I'm going to ask it. When you were doing all this calculation, where were you taking the material from?
I would ask my coach for advice.
Okay.
Just what book is good? He said that book is good. Thank you. So he did all the research for me.
Right,
but now there's so much material, right? When I was becoming IM or GM, there was no access to as much material as it's now. So I was facing different problems, right? Now the problem is which one is good. Right? Yeah, how do you know it's a good book or a good puzzle? So what I'm suggesting, this is like the best out of the worst that I would say. So what can you do in this situation? In my point of view, the book should be quite challenging, not too hard and not too easy. That sounds reasonable, right? If it's too easy, that's like checkmate in one for children. You're not really improving. Just like with Puzzle Rush, first 20 positions or first 15 positions, this is like silly. That time is wasted. Just mate in one, mate in one, mate in one. Take something fork, for higher level. I'm not sure what is going on on lower levels. So what I'm suggesting is it should not be too simple and not too difficult. So my approximate, very rough estimate is the positions should take you from 3 to 10 minutes.
Oh no, we lost Jesse. He'll be back.
We lost Jesse. So
This
I'm
happens
just
all
gonna.
the time.
Yeah, so I was the first one to start. Okay. Oh, we can hear Jesse. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. Well, I touched
so from
something,
3 to 10 minutes, that's my suggestion. Anything below 3 minutes, probably too simple, and above 10 minutes. So you can tell in retrospect, oops, that book was too hard. Maybe I'll get back to it, or that one was too simple. But again, too simple is useful for blitz tournaments. So when the 2 tournaments that I became Ukrainian champion, I was doing tactics before every game, and it helped me a lot. A very little time I did tactics before the game. When I was playing Rapid Championship in 2014, before going to the round, I would do the simplest tactics, just boom, 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 boom. Which is harmful for classical chess, but good for short time control. And I was seeing all these tricks and forks and simple stuff, and that was great. Before going for classical game, for 15-20 minutes, I was doing still simple, but not very straightforward. I was doing some endgame studies, and one study took me like 1, 2, 3 minutes. And I boosted my confidence because I did all of them right. And my calculation was already running. The wheels are running in my head, and I feel like I'm ready to go. So that would be my answer to the question.
Well, maybe we could talk about Puzzle Rush a bit, because I'm sure we'll disagree on this one.
So I'm open to changing my mind. Yes.
So I would say I see things very similarly to Mihailo, that you have your speed, your quick tactics, and you have your deeper calculation when it's critical to know what response the opponent is going to play. That's just part of it. If you make a move, even if it's the engine top choice, but you have no idea what the opponent does in response, to a coach's perspective, like you just got lucky, you just guessed, right? It's not where we're. So I'm totally with you there. I feel like Puzzle Rush is really good at building the base blocks, like the simple tactics in terms of just the quantity and doing a lot of them. So I encourage my students to do it. I work with lower levels, so that's a big distinction, right? I'm working with 1600, usually up to like around 1800 maybe is kind of my higher limit. I'll work with higher students, but not nearly as frequently. So for them, like the first 15 to 20 puzzles are not super easy. Like they will be challenged at some point because, well, they don't see something as hanging. They don't see that like, they'll see simple back rank mate, but a 2-move combination that ends in back rank mate is already much more difficult. So I encourage them to not guess. That's the big issue with Puzzle Rush. It really pushes you to move quickly and guess. I try to get them to like finish the time without 3 strikes. That's your goal. That's always your goal. Just finish the whole 3 minutes or the whole 5 minutes without striking out.
Or maybe survival. I think there's a survival, like 3 strikes, but you can do it for hours. Maybe
survival is right. Basically, just kind of unlimited, right? Just how many you can get right in a row. So I think if someone does Puzzle Rush in like an effective way, where they're like, they move quickly if they're 100% confident, and if they're not confident, they stop and think until they are confident. And then afterwards, of course, reviewing the problems. Sorry, Jessica, go ahead.
Sure. Let me just step in for a second, because I think this is a position just came to my head. So the position, sorry, by the way, if people were wanting position, we should have put a position on the board earlier, but it was just so fun talking. This is a position from the Rubinstein book, and this is white to move. And I'll just let people think about it for a little while, but I think it's an indicative of the kind of problem that we're talking about, being where we have a real life problem versus a Puzzle Rush problem. I do not think this problem, this is white to move, would fit into the algorithm of what Puzzle Rush is about. But anyway, so I'll just let people think about it. It's white to move, but I didn't want to disrupt this great debate. Mikhailo, let me tell you how bad it is in my war with Kostya here. Kostya got himself involved in this thing where with a young man named Elijah Logazar, and they got it into their heads that if you did 3-minute Puzzle Rush, now 3-minute Puzzle Rush is even way faster than 5-minute Puzzle Rush. So the first 10, 15 puzzles are really easy, but you got to do them fast, like really, really fast. They got into their heads that if they could get their speed up in the 3-minute Puzzle Rush, raise their score, like their average score, and do it for like 4 hours a day, 4 hours a day, they would become better chess players. And I was horrified. But that is the difference. See, there are differences, of course, between us, and that is a really clear one between me and Kostya. And I think it has something to do with the difference just in the value of problems, but also, like I'm with you, Mikhailo, I would never want to do problems online. But this whole Puzzle Rush thing, it takes it to a whole nother level, especially the 3-minute Puzzle Rush.
Okay,
Yeah, really
I feel
fast.
like I have to weigh in. There's no one correct way to become a strong player. No, there are definitely several routes to take. Check Hikaru. As far as I know, he mostly is playing Blitz his whole life, and he was second in the world. He's the best Blitz player in the world. So there's Alireza Firuza. He's like playing Blitz all the time, and he's extraordinarily good, right? So it's not like. Apparently, I'm from older generation since we right talking about sit on the board, don't use engine, etc. I'm using engine all the time. But I'm only looking for interesting moments. Okay, we'll get to the engines later because me and Kostya have looked into Stockfish stuff and everything. So I think Kostya probably you'll beat me in Blitz. If you've done that for many hours, Puzzle Rush, I'm definitely screwed in Blitz against you.
I'm actually kind of anti. I don't. Ironic thing is, I don't like I'm not great at Blitz. I think Blitz is not harmful, but it's I think people should be playing less Blitz in general. One of the things that actually bugs me the most is when people kind of write in they're stuck at their level, and then they're not doing anything except they're just playing Blitz.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, why don't you just play G15, G30, and they just it's like they don't want to do it. It's like, well, this is the problem. You got to take your time.
About Blitz, we all love playing Blitz, I suppose. It's fun, it's interesting, it's enjoyable,
addictive.
And you can actually benefit from it. What I'm suggesting to students, first of all, you have to keep yourself interested in the game. You don't play any Blitz, you don't do any Puzzle Rush, you just into doing what is right, you'll get bored. I think that's for most people that would be the case. And getting bored is not good with the game. You need to be excited to play the game, I would say. So what I say, and what I at least try my best to follow my own rule, is to if you play a Blitz game or two or whatever is the number, the least you can, I would say studying what happened later in the game. This is Blitz. Anything can happen there. But what you can benefit the most for sure is checking the openings. Like you play 1 game, 2, 5, doesn't matter. When you stop playing, you check all the openings, check with your files, with the books, whatever you have, and you say, did I get in trouble in that opening? Can I fix it? Not can I fix it, I should fix it. So that what do I do? The question you should answer to yourself, what do I do next time this position happens? Do I go for this position? And assume if you didn't get in trouble in the opening, just check the next one. But we get in trouble in the opening all the time in Blitz. And we just let it slide and we move on to the second game, right? I want to beat this guy, and then you forget you had a problem. I have quite a painful story to tell about that. So I want to say about Puzzle Rush and doing tactics online, and because I have my own painful experience. I'm usually recommending stuff that I tried myself and failed or succeeded, so I'm trying to only suggest what I know from personal experience. was not doing my homework. This is quite an embarrassing story, so I shouldn't tell it live, I would say, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So I could show a position. Is it okay, Jesse Cry, if I show a particular position in one line, because it's quite.
Well, why don't
I can talk out loud, but I think most of our viewers from chat, it would be a hard time. Although the position actually the position doesn't matter. Okay, I'm just gonna tell the story. I played a game in 2012. I forgot the name of the girl I was playing. She had like 2200 elo. I got in huge trouble out of the opening with black. Huge trouble out of the opening. I thought I'm being smart with the move order. I was wrong. I got in huge trouble, and only because I'm a stronger player, I managed to confuse her and win the game. And I didn't fix my opening. I don't know why that happened. Maybe I was too excited about winning the game, or I started preparing for the next game. I didn't put a note in my copybook, just fix that opening. I forgot about that. So the time passes, 3-4 years later, I'm playing against a strong international master. I was playing in Turkey, and I'm going for literally the same position, again thinking I'm being smart with this move order, avoiding some line, where in fact I'm inviting a very strong line. And I'm like going for the line, I press the clock, and I'm like, hold on a second. I had this position 4 years ago. I got in trouble. I didn't fix it. And while all these thoughts come, he plays another move, and he doesn't go for the line that girl played against me. And I forget again. So I finish the game, and I forget, and this is embarrassing for Grandmaster, for anyone. And I forget about that. And then the year 2016, I'm playing Ukrainian championship that I managed to win. I'm playing against Alexander Areshchenko. He was around 2700 when I played him. And I do the same thing. And I go for that same line, which I didn't fix. I thought I was being smart with the move order. Yeah, you can look it up. 2016 Ukrainian Championship, my game against Areshchenko. And I'm like, I'm playing the move, and he goes for the same line. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, I've prepared for hours, and he going for the same line that girl played with me 2012. I played with her 4 years later. I still haven't fixed it. And now I'm playing not against 2200 elo girl. I'm playing against very strong grandmaster, almost 2700. And he played it already. I don't know how I missed it. And I'm like so angry at myself. This is so embarrassing. I got the evaluation of my opening was 1.5. I was on move like 12, 1.5 according to Stockfish. So like I'm completely lost. And I'm so pissed and angry, but I managed, since I worked on my calculation, I managed to complicate stuff on the position, and I got my way out, and I managed to make a draw. Actually, later he offered a draw, even though he was still better. And then I went on to become Ukrainian champion. And then after that, I just, okay, that ends now, And I fixed it very easily. I just stopped going there. That's it. It was a bad line. And then I actually had that line with white against Alexander Fier in Dubai in 2017. I got huge advantage, but I didn't manage to win. And that was it. So don't follow my mistakes. If you had it was classical chess. That's why it's so embarrassing. You shouldn't even do that in a blitz game. If you had a problem in a blitz game, later on, when you have time, it's not so hard. Open the game, use Stockfish, use Engine, whatever. I don't care. Just fix the problem. And what do you do next time? You should answer that question to yourself. I had experience when my opponent goes for a line that he never played. And I'm like asking, how do you know all this stuff? Never play. I played it in blitz many times. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know, so people you have this extra knowledge for free. The people show your opening mistakes for free in a blitz game. Use that as a valuable lesson. Thank you all for this lesson. In an important game, I will not make this mistake. So I'm actually very happy when I get in trouble in blitz in the opening.
Totally
I'm
agree.
like, thank you so much. And I write down I need to fix it.
I have a question real quick. So when you're playing against someone who you know is lower rated than you and weaker than you, is it a good idea to not only complicate the position, but even in the opening play maybe something dubious to confuse them, or like some sideline? Would that be wise?
Yeah, that's a very good question. and I don't have an answer to it. All I can we're talking about classical important chess. We're not talking
classical
about
for
Blitz.
sure.
Yeah.
No, Blitz, I'm sure you can play anything.
Literally anything.
Yeah. um, I would say this: with white, no experience are needed. You just play the good line and just try to get advantage as you would do against anyone. So I don't think it's a problem when you're playing white pieces. Just play decent lines.
So do you have
The
a cheat
problem,
sheet for like when you play whites? Do you just follow a
uh,
trend?
yeah, I'm trying to just I don't change anything when I'm playing white against weaker player or stronger player. My goal is to get advantage or a position that I like and understand.
Mm-hmm.
Right, getting advantage is hard. At least the position that you understand well and feel it much better is a reasonably good goal. With black, it's harder. With black, I lost so many games with black when I was trying to play dubious lines against weaker opponents just to win, and then I end up losing those games. And it's more, I would say, a psychological problem. And I, at least for myself, I fixed it this way. With black, when you play against weaker player, equalize first. The only way to win with black is to equalize first. And there's no jump from I have a worse position, you immediately have a better position.
Okay,
it's very unlikely, right? So equalize first and then just keep going. Just keep on playing. You're a better player. So, why is the player better? He can play, any player can play 5 good moves, right? But 50, no chance, right? So the longer, this is marathon. This is not Usain Bolt category, 100 meters. You take your pace. It's fine. Just play a long game. It's okay. If you're a better player, and you are, you just take your time. It's fine. That's what I equalize first, and then keep on playing. If you don't think it's like recently somebody gave me this suggestion. I'm like, yes, that's a great one. Many people don't go for a position with black against a weaker player because it's so drawish, right? It's so equal. How am I going to win? This is the question, including myself. I asked this question for many years. Try playing it against Stockfish. That equal position that you play it with white, that you think that how am I going to win? Play for 15 moves against Stockfish, and you'll see how you win it, right? Nobody can stand, right? So just keep on playing. Just keep on playing the most equal position. For me, it was groundbreaking when I realized that I just keep on playing. I started to play Slav with black for win. They play exchange Slav, and I'm like, okay. They exchange like rooks on open file. I say, okay, exchanging queens, that's fine. Let's just keep on playing. You just keep on playing. You win on long distance. It's hard psychologically. You want to win faster because you have plus 200 points of elo.
I was gonna say you channel your inner Magnus, when you get into like a dead drawn position in the end game.
It's not for everybody, I would say. There are players. For example, recently I was checking Bahadur Jabava's games. He plays nonsensical lines. Like out of the opening on move 10, the evaluation of Stockfish is +1 already. And he's just bring it on. So he's not even playing equal positions. He's just playing much worse positions for a win against grandmasters, and he succeeds. So there are definitely different ways to use it. But I would say equalize first and just keep on playing.
So Jesse, I wanted to bring this back to you, since you are the youngest of us. We are talking about all this stuff with Puzzle Rush and the computer, and I feel it was obvious, since the old guys were preaching about this stuff, about the board and stuff, that you need to weigh in on this, because your generation is often not reading books. Like the kids I'm teaching in your generation or younger, they're not reading books. They're usually not setting up the board at all. And so, yeah, give us your sense of how that is both for you and your generation.
I definitely agree with someone in the chat who said you have to eat your broccoli, and I love that. But also, I completely understand where you're coming from, where we're just kind of computer oriented, or looking at the screen and hoping to improve just by maybe having an ebook on the one side and the board on the other. Whereas it's much better to just have that 3D in front of you, because that's how you're going to be playing OTB, obviously. I wanted to make a joke earlier when Michael was. I really want to say your your real name, Mikhailo?
Mikhailo, thank you.
Okay, there we go. You were saying that it's better 3D than it is 2D, but my joke would have been just OTB like during a tournament. You can stand on your chair and just kind of look at the board from the top, which should work just fine. But yeah, I have a board behind me that I use sometimes, and it's like it looks like one of those DGT ones. So I find that really cool, and it motivates me to work a bit. And I read the occasional chess book. I'm gonna flex real quick.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
I have the woodpecker method in front of me. Yeah, but it's tactics, so probably it's not a good example. I don't know. Yeah.
that's an interesting one. Mihaela, do you have any thoughts on the woodpecker method? Like, are you familiar with the book? Like repeating the same set of exercises?
I'm familiar with the book. I don't own it, but many of my students say that I'm doing that book. I think I would have to read the explanation why is that useful, because I see tactics as a way to improve your calculation, not your memory, but your calculation. At least that's my point of view. I'm doing tactics to improve my calculation. So I don't need the same position over and over again. I need a new one because I need to train the skill of calculating variations, not memorize the particular positions. Although, as you said, Kostya, about doing puzzle rush for weaker players, I assumed that all that work is already done. Knowing all those patterns, you don't need to repeat them anymore. If we're talking about 2,000 plus ELO players, they don't need the back rank checkmate anymore, right? So hopefully they learned it already, all this stuff. So it's not useful for the higher level anymore. So I don't think that woodpecker method would be useful for high level, I would say. Doing it once, that's fine, but repeating it, you will have to convince me, or at least read the reasons by. I know I'm in that book because I played Axel Smith in Lviv. He came here, and people tell me that he lost to me 9 moves, blundered a knight, and that was it. But he owns up to it. It happens to everyone, right? So I do want to know what is the reasoning behind this repetition. Mm-hmm. I really want to understand that one because my understanding you're training the skill, not memory. But maybe you can do both. I don't know.
I mean, in the introduction, Axel kind of speaks about how he was international master wanting to become a grandmaster. And he would go on hikes, or he would just kind of sit with his book, or like a bunch of exercises. I'm sure it was 1,000 tactics or something. And he would do them over and over. And at some point, at the end of his training, he locked himself in the basement and did all of those puzzles like just in one go. And it took him 23 hours to complete it. So maybe the repetition is more to remind yourself of what you've learned. Maybe doing it once isn't going to help you remember it. But as you said, you make the same mistake over and over, and then you'd have to go back and actually either decide to not play the line or fix it. Like you're telling the story about 2012 where you played the 2200, for instance. Yeah. So that's why I think repetition is good, especially for people like me with a terrible memory. Then it's obviously a good way to go. And I wouldn't mind locking myself in the basement for 23 hours if it means I get to become a grandmaster.
Well, and I think it's the same kind of that school of thought is what led Kostya and Elijah to do their 3-minute blitz or puzzle rush thing, right? It was like, well, we're gonna get it embedded in our mind. We're gonna embed these positions in our mind.
Actually, yeah, similar concept. Well, I did the woodpecker method last year.
Okay.
In fact, I streamed the whole thing. I streamed like every session.
How did you find it?
I went through I did it on Chessable.
Okay. Wow.
Because they have the book. I mean, Chessable is actually designed perfectly for the woodpecker method because they essentially just have you repeat it. If I could add to what Jesse said about like the process of the book. So for me, the first time around, I'm definitely solving all the positions. There's 3 levels. So there's like level 1, level 2, level 3. Say level 1 is pretty pretty basic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Level 2 gets challenging, and then level 3 is like I don't know. I mean, I definitely didn't get them right multiple times, so really challenging stuff. And then going through it the second and third times, I would say I didn't remember most of the problems, so I had to kind of just resolve them again. Sometimes I would find one detail, and then my memory would kind of click in, like, oh yeah, I looked at this, and then there was some weird, bishop move. I have some like vague memory, and then I still have to kind of look and find it. Overall, I felt like it was really helpful with pattern recognition mainly. I think the idea is like, even though you're seeing the exact same position, it's still kind of like the pattern that you're trying to pick up. And I would say the problems in the book are really well chosen. They're all taken from the games of world champions. A lot where the world champion wins, but a lot where they lose as well. So that's kind of fun. You get to see how many times like Lasker or Capablanca like blundered an exchange or something in their games. Yeah, where are you at, Jesse, in the book? How far are you in?
Yes. Probably halfway. The thing is, I have this really bad habit, and I preach the exact opposite. I'd start a book, I get pretty far with it, like I'd get into it, but then you get busy with something else, and you get so distracted. When you come back, you have to start from the beginning again, and it's just that like really bad cycle of. But I've gotten to about maybe just close to the end of level 2. That's why when you were mentioning like the difficult puzzles in the level 3, I was like, I don't really know them yet, but yes.
No spoilers, yeah?
No spoilers, of course, please. I haven't gotten to that season yet.
Well, that's why I streamed it, because I felt like if I didn't tell people daily that I'm gonna finish the book, then I probably wouldn't have finished it either.
I see.
So sometimes you got to make that like very public announcement.
So you said
which a lot of people are doing nowadays.
Okay. Did you post the VODs?
Yeah, actually, it's all in my personal YouTube channel. So if people YouTube my name,
okay,
they can find it, and
I'll go check
it's very easy.
VODs
It's just like
later.
day 1, day 2, day 3.
What? How many days did you dedicate, or weeks, should I say?
It was it ended up being like, I think it was 32 or 33 days. So the method is designed to be 4 weeks. I think you try to do as much as you can in 4 weeks, right? And then you cut it down. You do the same thing in 2 weeks, and then 1 week, and then half and half and half, until you do everything in 1 day. So I would take rest days. I think I worked 3-4 days a week, usually like 2.5 hours a day. And then when I did the whole book, I was able to finish it in like 6.5 hours, because that was like my 7th cycle. So I was like, I was blasting. At that point, I felt like I did just remember, just straight up recognize maybe most of the positions, like 99%.
Costa, that's a very good point about pattern recognition. I think I see chess as, you have to have a certain set of ideas, typical ideas in vast majority of positions. If you don't have an idea, very often you have no chance to calculate it, right? If you haven't seen the idea, you're screwed basically, right? So I had this. So if you're memorizing the patterns and the ideas and have them inbuilt in your brain, that's a good idea, I would say. I remember this. I had this frustration. I was playing against international master here in Lviv many years ago. I am back then. And I was playing against him, and I blundered. I think I can just explain, like very often if your rook is protecting the queen, right? And then the queens are attacking each other, and your rook is protecting the queen. So they give you check on back rank, and that's it. You take with the rook, you lose the queen, and otherwise it's a checkmate, right? So this is an idea. What I didn't see is I could move the king away, but I had 2 rooks on back rank. So then he takes my queen and then takes that one rook in the corner. That was so well placed and twice protected. So what bothered me was that that year I became international master. So I played a move. He immediately gave me rook e1 check. I played like queen d4 or something. Rook is on d1, rook is on a1, queen is on d4. He gives me rook e1 check. In 1 second, I realized if I take, I lose the queen. If I move the king, I lose the rook on a1. And I resign, of course. And I'm like sitting there. How did it happen? I didn't see this idea before. Wow. I was like, how come I didn't cross, like what? I was like, I have no words, you know. Maybe I've seen the idea, but only when you're forced to take. Somehow the idea that even if you can move the king, you still lose that rook on a1. I haven't seen it before. And I blundered it. And that's a very simple combination. I was like, oh my God, that was a huge hole in my chess education. I didn't know that one. So I agree about that. Just you have to, all those ideas and patterns should be there. And then you use your skill to calculate. Because if you don't have the list of ideas, it's very hard. Look at me.
Yeah. No, anyone who does Puzzle Rush a lot knows that trick because it always shows up between like 15 and 30. It's at some point there's going to be like a rookie one. It's like always there. But there are different justifications. So there can be like, lots of little details. I feel like we should talk more about coaching.
I have one question though. I mean,
Okay.
Michailo, do we have you sold on repetition that it's a good idea?
To train pattern recognition and memory, yes. I'm not sure how it helps you calculate variations better. I'm not sure about that, but it definitely helps you recognize stuff. If you've seen it like 5-10 times, it's just there forever, I would say. So from that perspective, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Cool.
One thing, I'll just add, so I've never done the woodpecker thing, and it's a little bit like the Logazar thing that Kostya did, still freaks my soul out. But I think what a lot of players have done, and probably Mikhailo's done this at some level, like I have this Polgar Made in 2 book. I love that book. I've done that several times. I'm definitely faster at it now. I never thought of it as like, I want to be faster at it though. But it's kind of like that book with the Made in 2 patterns I think of those as like the layups of chess. You're close to the basket and you got to lay it up and you got to know how to do it well. Another book I've done many times. I'm going to show this book, but you can't get it. It costs like $3 million. Maybe Mikhailo knows it, but I've done this endgame book that I really
Who's
enjoy.
the author of the book? I can see the Russian spelling. Who's the author?
This guy's name, he's kind of...
3 million?
It costs...
Pesos?
Kalinishenko.
Kalinishenko, yeah.
I got it in Moscow very cheap when I went there, but you can't get it online. It's very difficult to get. But anyways, that's a book of endgame positions and studies, like endgame studies, where you have to calculate. And even if I remember it, I'm still going to have to work at it. It's not going to be easy necessarily, even if I kind of remember some of the basic ideas. I'm just trying to say that there are at least 2 books like that where I'm doing essentially the woodpecker method without knowing that I was doing.
Right,
so
Jesse,
you own
you've also
some royalties, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
You've gone through the big Polgar book behind you, right? The chess book.
I've done that about 5 times, yeah.
Wow.
And and that's just I noticed like people have prejudice against that book because they think Made in 2s are going to be easy. And the first thing is, no, they're not going to be easy. But second of all, that's not the point. It's like you're learning these basic patterns. Yeah,
because usually those Made in 2 would be at the end of some forcing line, and you should see them in a fraction of a second to go for that line, right? So yeah.
I think also, I enjoy puzzles. That's the other thing that's different with different players. I love telling the story of Alex Yermolinsky, and we've done a lot. I've hung out with a guy a bunch, and he's never, ever solved a chess puzzle. Never. It's never something. It's not something he wants to do. He's not interested in trying it. Thank you very much.
Like I've never had apples, like what?
What does he do? Does he just play like A3, B3, C3, D3?
No, I think he's interested in what you could call the Soviet school. He's going to analyze his games to death, and he's going to look at his openings. He's going to look at the endings. And the guy's really studied the endings. I mean, he knows the endings very, very well, So yeah, that's a totally different school of thought. And Sarah talks about it a similar way, and I'm kind of with it in the sense that you get a position and you don't know it's a problem. That's why I like the Grabinski book, honestly. Like this position we haven't talked about.
Yeah, I was just about to say, maybe we should talk about the position a little bit.
Yeah, so this is white to move. I don't think this is a puzzle rush position. And I don't know, do you
Not
guys...
tactics. I don't think it's tactics.
No, it's not tactics. But if you don't find this move, you're toast. White is about to lose the game.
Oh.
Your development is terrible.
My
So you guys
puzzle
have
rush
any...
brain wants to sacrifice everything, you know. Go for
yeah.
glory.
Yeah, you play rook takes e5, and then if it's wrong, you just move on.
You get an X and you move on. As a redo.
Any ideas? Anybody?
Well, my
Yeah,
board
I
just
have, but
came
I
with
would wait,
Stockfish running, so I didn't even have a chance to.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
wasn't looking.
I was not watching the board. Yes, I was watching on YouTube. Yeah, okay.
I was watching it on YouTube too. I didn't. Mine is off. You guys need to turn off your Stockfish. Mine is off.
Yeah, just by
I just
default.
have the
All right,
panel on the side, and then the analysis at the bottom is blocked off. So I'm like, yes, it's definitely +1 for white, you know.
And even when I turn it off, it still gives me the top line of the engine.
Oh.
But it's all good. It's all good. I can switch over to YouTube.
Yeah. This is an example where I think it's a very real chess example to me, where there's not like rook takes e5. You're just going to lose the game if after black castles long. It's over, bro. Those bishops are coming out, and your development is toast. The bishops are going to everything's going to destroy you. It's going to be like completely the end.
It was very difficult for me to hear you say bro, because I mean, as a kid, I know you made videos for a really long time. As a kid, like growing up as a player, 1200, 1300, I watched a lot of your videos.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's cool. Such an honor, first of all, to be here. But to hear you say bro is just another level.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm glad you watched the videos, like the old time chess lecture videos, or what were you?
Yes, it's just voiceover, and you're like moving the pieces around. It was really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, that was the old time before computers were really strong enough to have the video. That's
I had it burnt on CDs actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So
no, I came up on those videos too. I just want to say, yeah, just as it goes,
nice.
The old ones. I mean, yeah, for chess lecture, then chess.com, where I learned a ton. Yeah,
that's cool.
Well, why don't we have the maestro talk about it, and maybe was this a position maybe you even remember from your sessions back?
You said this from the book. I did not remember the position at all. I did spend a little time. My essence is crying for these pieces not being developed at all.
Right.
You know, hold on, I can. The queen side is not developed. So the only move basically I was considering, maybe that was my bet, is d4. Just sacks a pawn, moves the bishop to g5, stop the long castle, just develop something. You know.
Right.
So d4 was my suggestion, but I still don't like the position after it. But I would probably play it. It depends on how much time I have on my clock. But what I calculated was d4. Any capture, I move the bishop to g5 and to create some problems for long castle. But then I don't even have an extra pawn anymore and two bishops, and that's depressing, right? So
d4 isn't it, Mikhailo. That isn't it.
Yeah, I already once Kostya said that there's Stockfish, and I click where's Stockfish, and that's it. So I know
oh no.
So the valuable lesson is that's, by the way, another thing. What I suggest to people when to study the books, it's not a tactical book. Any diagram is a puzzle. If you take almost literally any chess book, there's a diagram. They put it for a reason there. Right? Something valuable is about to happen or didn't happen, right? You need to find. That's a free lesson for you. And if you just read what happened, you lost a valuable lesson. So I'm saying, like, is that how you do tactics? You know, you just look at the position and you read the solutions? No, that's not how you do tactics, right? You try to do it yourself, and then you succeed or fail, and then you read the solution. So every diagram is a puzzle, and for me, a valuable lesson is lost already. Because if they tell you the solution, you lost. You just, you will forget it. You would forget it in a week or two. But if you suffered on it, for example, now I tried myself, and I would prefer d4 because I didn't find, I didn't spend that much time, but I failed this one. And I'm like, I failed. What was the right move? Now I understand it better. Now it's much better fixed in my memory, and my chances of finding similar idea in the future has just increased. When I try to find it myself, and then I read the solution. Whether it's a tactical, it's not tactics. It's just a normal position from a game. And there's clearly one best move, and everything else is bad.
Right. And I would say, one thing I'll stress, I think I'm going to sound like a weirdo to some people when I say this, but I'm not ashamed of it. It's like, I really feel like the thing that keeps me coming back to chess is there's certain like spiritual moments. And solving this problem was, at least for me, a spiritual moment, because we've all been in this situation where you've grabbed some pawns and then you don't really know what's going on. And now you have to make what is, to me, a very paradoxical decision. And for sure, right, everybody's first reaction is going to be like something like d4. But you're still lost after d4 because the bishops are murdering you and you gave up the pawn. So I'll tell you what, since you guys have already ruined my puzzle, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and just make the move. The move was queen d3. Actually, I don't know.
It's the Houdini on YouTube, I'm telling you.
So queen d3, very paradoxical, because of course you want to move the d2 pawn, but you have to realize that if black achieves coordination with castles long, that's it. But now it's this really interesting thing that by stopping his coordination just for a nanosecond here, we're able to get ourselves, we're able to consolidate our position.
Is the game right at top? Is this Sutovsky Morozevich?
That's right. Yeah, I just I just pulled up the PG.
From what, 1971?
No, it was 2004. I think it was right before the book came
out. You know why I failed this one?
Looking at this.
This is Soviet, Russian, whatever you call it, school of chess, telling me develop your pieces. Instead of looking in what is, that's a very nice guideline. That's a very nice rule. But you should look at the specifics, Don't follow it blindly. Look at the specifics. And that's where it can harm you, That's where you just follow the rule or the guideline or a suggestion blindly. You're like, oh my God, I should develop my pieces. Hold on a second. There are some important stuff going on. Your queen is almost trapped. Black wants to castle and develop all the pieces. And even if you both develop pieces, you're screwed. There are bishops and in an open position, right? So there's something extraordinary should happen here. Queen d3 apparently gives white big advantage because the pawn is still hanging on e5. On castle is not happening anymore. That's a brilliant position. And it's not tactics.
And by the way, I want to say, I'll just admit, when I did this and I finally came up with queen d3 working at it, it was not like I said to myself, oh, I'm much better. Like maybe the computer says, I don't know, whatever it says. But I just realized that even though I'm not really sure what the evaluation is after queen d3, the queen d3 is the only move that keeps me in the game, even, So it was more like, that's the only possible way to even play the position.
Yeah. And can you imagine how hard it was to write a book? What was the year? So this game was played in 2004.
Right.
So I think the book was published in 2005.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you can. Now it's easier to write books. You just ask Stockfish whether that move was good, and you wait for 3 seconds or 5, 10, and you have the solution. How do you do it? The Ripka was probably the engine back then, or something even weaker and much less sophisticated. So it's actually easier to write books these days.
Well, Mikhailo, let me pull up a game that I was going to ask you to tell a story about here, and this is by Volokitin. And I should mention, at least, I assume that Rubinstein wrote most of the book of Perfect Your Chess, but Volokitin is listed as a co-author to that book. So I assume...
Yes, he provided many of the puzzle. There's I think a separate chapter of positions from Volokitin games.
Exactly.
I think that's the case. So you want to tell me the story of... Volokitin, since we're speaking about the Perfect Your Chess, yes?
Well, that story and also the story, I just uploaded this game
Yes.
that you have a
Yes.
story from. So yeah, you could talk about either one of those.
Okay, so I would talk, this would be a long monologue, I would say, but please interrupt me, okay? So I would say this is an example of really, really high level stuff. So I'm mostly teaching high level, but I can also do 2010 above. So, and there are separate, completely different approaches are needed. So this is a game from, hold on a second, 2 years ago, European, hold on, I wrote down the date of the game and I completely forgot when it happened. Anyway, European Championship, the European Team Championship. We have
November 2019.
19.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah, close.
Oh, wait, I confused. It was like, okay. Okay, so this is game number 8 of European Teams Championship. Ukrainian team, we had 2 coaches, Alexander Sulipa, he's the main coach and he's listed all over the place because he's the main coach. But I was the second coach, which was doing behind the scenes preparation for our team. So I hope I will not reveal too much here. And I hope I don't get fired. I thought very carefully about what I want to say here. And so I'm not sure how many viewers know this, but Andrei Volokitin, maybe 18 years ago, he was in top 20 in the world. He was top rated young player. He had more than 2,700 ELO when he was like 17 or something, or 18. He was in top 20 in the world when he was 18, I think. I think that's a number. You can easily check his rating. So extremely talented player. And here he was playing against Georg Mayer from Germany on, I think, second board. Yes. So he's playing Georg Mayer. And I need to help him prepare for the game. So I think it can answer a little bit of questions. Why is it helpful to have a coach? Because very often the outside opinion of an expert could be really valuable and something like, why didn't I see it, you know? So he's playing Georg Mayer. And what I checked, Mayer is a well-known specialist of French defense.
Yeah.
So he played it in all these Dortmund super tournaments all the time against Kramnik, all the top players. He's very dedicated French player.
Yeah, people called it like the new Petrov, like his Rubinstein, because no one could crack it.
Rubinstein, exactly. So the game is about the Rubinstein variation. So, and I checked the database. Andrei Volokitin, so they played last year. Last time he had this position with white, even though he's almost exclusively e4 player. And on French, whatever, knight c3 is, everybody's playing knight c3. I'm playing knight d2, but there are only few people doing that. Knight c3 is better. He plays only knight c3, and he hasn't had this position for 9 years. The last time he had this one was in 2010. And the line he chose then to his most 2 recent games, he chose a bishop to e2 in this position, which is not the best line at all. There's easily, with modern engines, you can find easily how to equalize with black. There's easy improvements all over the place. So what I'm seeing is, if I'm Georg Mayer, and I'm preparing for Volokitin, and I see he plays only e4. On French, he plays only knight c3, and on his main weapon, he plays 2 lines, I think, in French. Rubinstein, basically, Andrei doesn't have a line. He doesn't have a line. He hasn't played in 9 years. Probably he didn't analyze it. What he played 10 years ago was not good. If I were him, that's my choice. I'm just going there. He played this Rubinstein against Caruana, against Anand, and I heard that they have teams with supercomputers. I heard that. I think that's a good rumor. So he's not afraid of those guys, right? No chance he would be afraid of going against, with all due respect, against Andrei Volokitin. He hasn't played it for 9 years. He would, by no chance, he wouldn't be scared. So what I say to Andrei, here's the line that I prepared for myself. So that's the problem when you're a coach on high level. Sometimes you have to give up your, it's very actually hard. There's no clear rules. So for example, I'm still a professional player and I have a novelty that I prepared in one line and I want to keep it. I want to use it. It's a valuable novelty. But then there's an important match. I get paid for it. You know, if we win some medals, that would be beneficial for all of us. Do I share a novelty or not? Do I keep it to myself and then pretend I didn't know, and then my student loses, or do I give it away? So I'm not sure what is the right strategy here. So I gave up my novelty to Andrei, because relatively recently I analyzed this line, Bishop E3, because I've seen Caruana is playing it, and he's really well prepared in the opening. Again, I was told. I'm not sure. So Bishop E3 was the line, and let's move on to the position that if anyone interested, Lone Castle, Bishop B7, King B1, C5, Bishop G5. So what I see is that Georg Mayer on this Bishop E3 line, he used to play another line. He switched to this one completely, and this position, this particular position, after move 13, he had in his 2 recent games against Caruana and Anand. He beat Anand with black, and he lost to Caruana. So once you can play it, but he keeps going there. He must be quite confident in his preparation, right? Mm-hmm. If he's playing against those guys, right? And here, when I was analyzing this line, of course, I needed to answer the question, what do I do here? When I was analyzing, I came across this move Bishop B5 that never happened before, and actually since the Volokhitin game against Mayer. Bishop to B5, that was a suggestion by LC0. And so I think if you run Stockfish here for a long time, it gives zeros all over the place. Just everything is zeros. So Bishop B5 was my novelty. That I say to Andrei, this is quite a promising line. And I had some analysis, but not deep enough, given that he's playing Georg Mayer. So we actually sat there and analyzed a little bit. So he was asking questions. What's the idea here? What to do here? I'm not going to tell that, of course. But after this move, Georg blitzed out another 5 moves after the novelty that he did not expect, because Andrei never played Bishop E3. He went on for 5 more moves, which tells a lot of his home preparation, right? And his memory. So he goes on for 5 more moves. I don't want to get into details, but 97 takes, rook takes d7, queen g5, f3 move, and I think he stopped here. I think he stopped here to think, so here his preparation ended, or maybe he forgot. So this position that the novelty happened on move 14, this is move 20. So we checked this position in our preparation before the game. I was actually still convincing Andrei to go for this line. He was still not convinced.
Let me just make one quick footnote here. Black is basing this whole thing on an amazing trick, which is if rook takes b7, there's queen takes g2. Very nice. And yeah,
Oopsie.
That's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing, right? That yeah, it would be easy to miss if you were white. Like if you weren't prepared and you played rook d7, you just wouldn't see that. It would be easy to miss that is actually black's intention with queen g5. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I just wanted to.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. Please do stop me. I may be going too fast. So f3, this position was still on my screen of my computer. So we keep analyzing. So now the bishop is hanging. So black goes through b8. I think that was still part of my analysis. Now h4 is the move. So what I'm saying to Andrei is black has to find a series of only moves to survive. Series like 15 almost only moves on every step of the way to get to equality. I'm saying that's a promising line. You don't get advantage anywhere. The best you can go is find a line that it's very hard to play for one side and difficult for another. So we keep analyzing b3. If you check the transmission of the side, they were both thinking very hard here, which may give you a misleading feeling about the fact that they were on their own. Andrei was not on his own. He spent on b3, he spent 40 minutes, I think, trying to recall what we've analyzed the evening before. So our preparation went further. Rook d8, rook d1, queen takes h4, a pawn, queen goes to e5, rook a8, just don't ask. This is really, really difficult. Rook a8, I think, is the only move for black. White is dominating. All white's pieces are very active. You cannot take my rook, of course, because of check on b8. And then the rook is lost. You cannot move a bishop anywhere. You can move it to a8, but it doesn't make any sense. So rook a8, I'm like saying, if you don't know this stuff, would you play rook a8? Like, what kind of move is that? This is ridiculous, right? So I'm convincing Andrei to go for this line. So we keep analyzing. This was still on my computer. Move 14 was a novelty. So this is how far. It's not even top level chess. This is not top level chess. This is not top 10 in the world or top 20. So h5 is the only move for black, I think. And now capture. Yeah. I think I can open my file, but I don't want to do that.
Maybe top 50 in the world.
And so I'm saying to Andrei, he has to find a ridiculous sequence of moves. If he finds he gets equality.
Which he then did.
No, he just needed one more move. Okay. So I'll leave the position with that one move for audience to enjoy. So bishop takes e6. All of this we had on my screen as a preparation. Takes, queen takes, king h8, queen f7. The bishop is hanging. Bishop goes to white is piece down for one pawn, but white is attacking. The queen is in the corner. Rook d6. So we have this position in the analysis. Alexander Sulipa is with us. Me and Andrei, we're analyzing. I'm convincing him to go for this line. I think maybe I convinced him already. And they are asking natural questions. I think we switched off the engines already. So the bishop is hanging. So I would maybe leave the position for quite some time for our audience and of course for you too. I think it's impossible to be honest. Black to move. What moves would you consider here? So we go to this position, and I can tell how the game went because I'm not sure whether it's Alexander Sulipa, the lead coach, or Andrei Volokitin. They asked the question, hold on, the bishop is hanging, there's no very good place to go. And what about bishop e8? What do you do on bishop e8? And they asked this question, and for a second you want to give a check, but then I say, no, hold on, queen b7 wins the rook. That's it, the rook is trapped. So we have this position, move 32. The novelty was move 14. And they asked a question, what happens if bishop moves to a natural square and queen goes in the opposite direction? The rook is trapped. Queen goes to h2, attacking the rook, but then we take the rook and check, doesn't matter. We take here, queen takes the bishop, now takes the pawn with a winning queen ending. We had this position in our preparation, move 36, 22 moves beyond the novelty. And this position was on the board in the game.
Wow.
And I would come back, and Andrei won. So basically, and we won the match, and we then got silver medals because of that. Because Germany drew against Russia, and we won against them. So we actually were tied first and second with Russia before the last round. And our tiebreak was better, but we couldn't win the last match. And we got only silver medals, even though we were number 8 in the starting list. So I'm going to come back to this position where there was only move for black to not lose. And I remember this one, black to move, not lose. I remember this one very well because I'm saying to Andrei, this move is impossible to find. We have this position, and this move is impossible to find. No chance he would find. We all see the suggestion of the stock. I'm saying there's no chance he's gonna get here. And I'm like watching the game, he's getting there. And I'm like, oh, come on. Please. And then he doesn't play the correct move. He plays the moves that we had on the board. I'm like, oh my God. And so the reason I'm telling this story, I would leave this position for a minute or two. What can black possibly do?
It has to be
A6. It has to be. It's not even obvious that it leads to a draw. It's just the only move according to Stockfish. What I'm trying to say here, I was saying to Andrei, as a coach, you can see very often, you can see better from outside. I'm telling Andrei, Meyer was very confident in his opening preparation. He played this line against Anand and Caruana twice, and successfully he beat Anand with black, for God's sake. He's not afraid of our preparation, he would stick to it. I guarantee you that position when where bishop b5 on move 14 happened would be on the board. Here's the file that we're analyzed. Please memorize it very well. It will happen on the board. I think this is the most reasonable scenario, because if I were him, I would see that you don't have a line, etc. I give him all these arguments. He didn't repeat the file, at least as well as I expected. He went on to repeat some other things that he expected Meyer to play. And then it all happened in the game. And I'm like, and I see that Andrei doesn't remember. He spends like 40 minutes on move b3 that we analyzed. And then I'm watching the game. And this is the position where I tell him, there's no chance he's going to find it over the board. It's almost impossible. Bishop e8 is a human move. You attack the queen with a tempo. All you calculate is a check on f8. And then you see what happens next. And then you don't see queen b7. And that's exactly what happened. Do you have any suggestions on it? It's a reasonable move, but it's hard to suggest.
Wait, I have a question. So did Andrei remember after the game, like this is queen b7, that he had looked at it before?
Yes.
Oh.
So during the game, he's just like working to remember.
He was just trying to make sure. Queen b7 is easy. You don't have to memorize it. You just attack the rook and it's trapped. But getting to this moment from move 14, when the novelty happened, we checked this line just once. Just once during the analysis, and then I sent him the file. And then I'm not sure I'm sure he checked the file, but I'm not sure if he did it before the game or so he was trying to recall everything. But what I'm trying to say here is, first of all, how deep and beautiful chess is, and how deep Stau can go. This is it's this exaggerated example. Mostly it's not like that, but it could be like this. Just 20 moves of analysis happen on the board in a critical match. But what I'm trying to say, it was obvious to me that Meyer would go for this position. He's so confident. He plays only that. And yet it was not that obvious. For a professional like Andrei Volokitin, he still didn't think that it would happen. So he spent lots of time checking something else.
Sorry, Michailo, sorry. I just wanted to say that we only have 5 minutes left. I really am getting into this though. Yeah, unfortunately. But I'd love to see the ending before we do.
Okay.
Yeah, wrap
up
the stream.
Kostya, Jesse, any suggestions? I didn't have a pleasure to suggest a move in this position. I just saw suggesting it. And that's why my lesson is lost here. So the bishop is hanging. So
I still have the top line of the Chess24 stock, which I don't know. I don't know is actually, I don't know how to turn off. I don't know if it's actually right or not, like, because it can get things wrong too.
You gotta hide it with like a window or something.
But I'll let GM Jesse take a shot.
I want to say that a lot of those moves were very anti-intuitive, especially
exactly my point. Yeah.
27 h5, and then Michailo was like, yeah, that's the only move. And I was like, I don't know why h5 is the only move. I'm still thinking back on it. I'm like, h5 was the only move.
Rook g4 was the threat. Rook g4 hitting g7.
Yes. Hold on. Let me come back to that, because that's maybe even more valuable position that you're referring to.
I thought it was a joke. Bishop... h5 was really the best move?
No, h5 is really the best move in the position. Because rook g4 is just the killer. Rook g4, there's no other good defense from rook g4. You cannot take, that's it. You stop rook g4 with h5. That's why I was so into this line, because you have to play moves like h5 and still have to be convinced that you don't lose on the spot, because you clearly end up in somebody's preparation. h5, this is the only way to stop rook g4. That's it. Rook is coming to g4.
But credit to Georg. I mean, like, maybe he was also trying to remember. I don't know. It seems like he had to find a lot of moves on his own. Like, just to survive.
He spent on every move. He spent a lot of time. So that doesn't seem to me like remembering.
Wow.
So like back to so a position where you have. So I don't know why he plays this line. You have to like find 15 ridiculous moves to survive. That's like, you have to be into that. So the move for black is. Should I say it?
Go ahead. Yeah, I don't have it.
A queen h2.
What?
Okay. I did look
Not take the pawn. You cannot take the pawn. Rook g6 is coming, right? So you cannot take the pawn, because now rook g6 is the problem, and then you lose the queen. So you go quietly rook back to h2, and if you take, you give a check, and it's sort of a perpetual. Although it's not really a perpetual, the king can still escape.
The king can still escape.
The king,
right?
it's not perpetual yet. The king escapes and white can go here. The perpetual is that you give one more check. The king is going here. This is the only check, and it's still a perpetual only. So it's not like black is winning here. So it's ridiculous, you know. Queen h2 was the only move in this position. Everything else is losing. That's
wow.
That's
The engine is
chess.
doing things.
And it's a skill to interpret chess moves and to understand them and to understand it's zeros all over the place. But does this seem like zeros to you for black? Where white has actually a variety of options. Black didn't. That's not zeros. That's not equality. That's suffering for black.
Yeah, white is more equal than black because they have more and more options.
Well, guys, I really enjoyed our stream, and obviously, I feel like we have more than enough material. We'll do this again. So, if people have questions, they can write in, and we'll cover it on the next show. And yeah, I think I got a lot out of it, and I was supposed to be talking, but I got a lot out of just listening to you guys. So, thank you very much.
It was a huge pleasure.
Thank you.
And just a reminder to everyone that we are coaches on CoChess, and at the moment it's all 50% off the fee for coaching. So please do check out cochess.com for more information. And thank you so much, guys. This was a lot of fun.
All right.